Welcome, welcome, welcome to Five Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you had a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Is Hanukkah still happening right now? I don't.
I don't want to be disrespectful and give the wrong answer. I hope they had a good season. How about that?
Yes.
I hope they had a great season. That's what I'll say for that. I'm just afraid of saying the wrong thing. And the mob is just coming after me. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm just an idiot when it comes to dates. I don't know these things. I don't know everything. I know a little bit about some things, but not everything about all things.
But all I know is that I celebrate Christmas. Whatever you celebrate, I'm totally about it though. Like, good on you. I hope you had a great time with your family, whoever you are. Dominic, how was your Christmas, man?
It was great. It was great. Christmas of gratitude and a great attitude is a great Christmas for me. So it was a wonderful one. Got a little bit of something. It's better than a whole lot of nothing. And I can't complain about that. But we did have a great podcast on Monday. We can't forget about that. We will not forget about that. If you didn't go check it out, I recommend go checking it out. It's a happy holiday podcast on gratitude and kind of how to carry yourself through this holiday season if it is a difficult time. But even if you are a very happy, very chipper person, I think it's a great podcast, kind of a refresher to, reset the mind frame and make sure you're focusing on what's important and what's right for you in your world. What do you think of Monday's podcast, Chris?
I thought it was wonderful, and our listeners should definitely go back and listen to it after, listening to this through. I know from the Five Guys podcast, everyone tunes in for the finance, for the learning about money. And there are going to be podcasts like Monday's pod where we put that aside and we let the personal side of personal finance be the real figurehead. And, there's an old saying that I tell my clients is that personal finance is far more personal than it is finance. And I think a lot of us, I'll call us, I don't know, money gurus, money influencers, whatever you want to call it. They always focus on just one aspect of it. They focus on the hard numbers. But in reality, we're not machines. We're not robots. We have emotions. So I think for us to focus as two men, to focus on the emotional side, the actual physics of it, not just showing the numbers, because yes, the numbers are important. They are sexy and they are quantifiable, but your emotions aren't quantifiable. Your feelings aren't quantifiable. Maybe at one point we'll be able to figure that out, but at this point, we don't know how to do that. So Monday's podcast and today's podcast is talking all about shifting our focus and focusing on the positive, especially during this holiday season, because there are people like me who struggle sometimes during the holidays on focusing on what I've lost, what I don't have. But I have to always remind myself that while I may have a list of 10 things that I no longer have or that I wish I had, I have an infinite list of things that I am so grateful for. But I choose to focus on the negative rather than choosing to focus on the positive. So I constantly need to shift my mindset to focus on that good wolf, to focus on that good list, and to remind myself that while, yes, there may be things wrong in this world, there is so much to be grateful for. And I want to shine a spotlight on that because it's just a better way to live.
100%. And we talked about on Monday, right? Happiness is a choice. Whether you like it or not, what you focus on is what you choose to feel. I've got plenty of negative things going on in my life, even right this second, but I don't choose to focus on them. I choose to focus on the happiest parts of my life. And that's what brings me more joy, right? So I encourage everyone to focus on the good of life, the great things that are happening in the world. Even things that might not even be happening, they just are, right? I have hot water. I have 4 limbs. Life is good. I still have hair on my head. That's pretty awesome. It's pretty good. Man, maybe 20 years from now, I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now, I don't know. Some have said I need to shave my head. I had a kind of a weird shaped head. I don't think it would look good. With that being said, gratitude is what it's all about in this new year. I know the new year's coming up quick. I hate to remind you. But it's important not to start being the best version of yourself on January 1st, but you can start to change your life today and really become the person you want to become today. We talk about it on the podcast all the time. Best time to plant a tree, probably 5, maybe 10, maybe 15 years ago, 20 probably, depending on how big this tree is, right? But the second best time to plant the tree is actually today, right? So I hope that you take steps towards bettering yourself, having a mindset of gratitude, and really changing how you operate. If you operate out of kind of negativity, right? Life is so much brighter when you start viewing things through the right lens.
Yeah. And there's that quote we said in Monday's podcast, but where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if you want to attend to the positive things in your life, your energy will flow in that way. And I'm not super big in like Reiki healing or any of that kind of stuff where we talk about energies, but at the end of the day, all things are energy. Like we are all light. Like every thought you have takes a has a physical manifestation. There's light particles that are actually being created. And if we want to go ahead, and this is just normal physics of how the world works, if you want to focus on negative, you're going to find that negative. But if you want to focus on positive, you're going to find that positive. Because regardless if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you think that like the world is an awful place and that everyone is against you and that you have nothing to be grateful for, you're going to find that you're going to either create that reality or you're just going to look around for that and then eventually create that reality. But if you want to say the world is perfect, maybe not perfect, but the world is great. I have so many good things. Could I have more? Sure. But I want to focus on what I have and not focus on what I don't have. You're going to go into a life of gratitude and people are going to react to you and be like, that person's a good person. I want to spend time with them. If you go through the world thinking everyone is a POS and that people are going to hurt you or that everyone's trying to cheat you, no one's going to want to be around you. And then you're going to create the reality that you're trying to avoid.
100%. I mean, 100%. Be the person you want to see in the world. That's the best way to change it, right? What else did we talk about on Monday, Chris?
We talked about really challenging the listener towards focusing on one area during the holiday season. And, I would say that moving forward, that they're grateful for. And I don't care what that is. And just be so thankful. Like I am so thankful that I have 4 limbs and that I could walk.
Truthfully.
I'm so thankful that I have hair in my head, that I can talk, that I have the ability to speak, that I can see. Because there are people in this world who don't have that ability. They're maybe deaf. They can't hear. They can't see. They can't walk. They can't use their arms. And you might think that you're in the worst case scenario right now. Earlier today, I was at jujitsu and there was a new person who I was training with. And when I was rolling with them, I kept on checking their feet. And like while they were, I let them get to mount on me and I let them get into my guard. And every time before I would do a move, I would touch their feet. And earlier there, and then after the roll, they're like, why'd you keep on touching my feet? And I told them the reason I touched your feet is because when you're sitting on your knees, some people flare their feet out. Like they're able to like sit on their knees and then flare their feet outwards. And if I was to do a bump sit up and your foot is facing out, there's only one way that your knee is going to go, and it's the opposite way. So every time I was touching their feet, I was protecting them before I did a move that was going to hurt them. So how great. And then this person was really grateful, like, oh, thanks for watching out for me. So I taught them, like, obviously tuck your toes, don't break your feet. But when I was thinking through that, I'm like, how grateful am I that I got to have that moment with that person? And how grateful are they? They got to have that moment with me. But also how grateful am I that never happened to me, that my knee got blown out doing jujitsu. Like honestly, every single day that I show up, every day that I get off the mat uninjured, every day that I do a coaching and everyone leaves uninjured, I celebrate as like hey guys, great job. No one got hurt today. And that's a win.
That's a win. It also like, it's awesome. And I, me, I like to see things a little differently, but I'm glad he asked, right? He didn't just leave and be like, wow, I don't know if I'll go back to Chris. He's kind of got like a foot fetish or something. I don't know. He's all over my foot, just rubbing it and checking it all day long. It's like, no, I'm gonna press him on. It's like, why are you touching my feet, man? It's like, oh, so I don't blow out your kneecaps. I'm actually a good guy. It's like, oh, I never knew. Interesting. So yeah, that is a lot of great things to be grateful for. Yeah. Thankfully he can walk this Christmas. That's good.
Yeah. Thankfully he could walk for the New Year's. He'll be able to get his kiss standing up. We also talked about that gratitude journal and just trying to keep a list of a few things every day that you're thankful for. Because too many of us, we focus on the negative. And are there negative things in the world? 100%. But if you actually go down there and you write things down physically in your own handwriting, saying like, these are things I'm grateful for. Well, later on, when you look at that positivity jar or whatever it is, or that list, you can be like, wow, those are things. And I wrote them down myself. My wife next to our bed has a positivity jar of things that she's thankful for. And when she's feeling down, every so often she'll go into there, reach into that jar and find stuff. she'll write new things in there all the time. There's one that she pulled out recently that was the Monton family loves me and like cares about me even though I'm not their family. And this was back when we were dating. So like she has
Oh,
stuff, like old stuff of like my parents accepting her as their daughter long before we got married. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to focus on those little things rather than focus on things you don't have. I think
that's
you have
like,
a thought.
yeah, that's kind of like a reverse David Goggins cookie jar. She has all the loving memories. And if you guys don't know David Goggins, he talks about this cookie jar in his mind. He's like, I got a cookie jar. He's like, every time someone hates on me, calls me some crazy, like anytime he's hated or something negative happens, he puts it in the cookie jar in his mind. So when he runs out of energy or he has a bad day, he reaches into the cookie jar and be like, wow, hey Goggins, I know you can't do it, right? And he puts it back in the cookie jar. It's like, hey, he creates an enemy in his mind so that it fuels him, right? And I just think it's so interesting. It's like a reverse cookie jar. Both methods I love. Both methods I would probably use, right? Um, I think one's a little bit darker than the other, but hey, sometimes you need the dark energy. Sometimes though, not all the time. Sometimes, but I think
I
that's
would
really
certainly
good.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think it's, I like the Goggins way of doing it, the focusing on the dark. But I think that if you focus on the dark for too long, eventually your energy begins to flow that way. If you're constantly focused on the people who are trying to keep you down, trying to stop you, trying to hurt you, eventually you're going to be looking out in the world for those people. And by you looking out in the world for those people, you're going to create those people in your reality, either inadvertently or inadvertently. So I think that dark side, if we're talking about the force, the dark side, that energy, it's pure and it's strong because it gives you certainty. There's a reason that we get so angry about politics. There's an easy reason we get so angry when someone calls us into question. It's because we feel that we're being wronged and then our certainty is being taken away from us. And that certainty that we get with anger, it's very alluring in that it gives us that this is the way I need to go, this path right here. There are no other paths. It's I need to get vengeance. I need to get whatever it is, not only to protect myself, but to protect other people. And that's good every so often to do that. And I think of it kind of like NOS in a car.
Yeah.
Hit it every so often when you need it. But you're not going to run your vehicle on NOS 24/7 without ever doing gas. You're going to blow out your engine. So my rule of thumb is you want to live 80% of it in the light energy, focusing on the positive, on the things that make you happy. But on those moments where you're really down in the darks, the deep depths, and you don't know how to get out of it, that's when that 20% of dark side, that focused certainty on this is the path I must go down, is so great. They've done rat studies where they hook up electrodes to a rat and they show them, and there's different levers they can push. They can push the dopamine lever and they'll get a dopamine response in their brain. They can push, a sadness lever and get I forget what it is, whatever the sadness chemical is. They can go around and press these different ones. And everyone would think like, oh, they're either going to go to serotonin and dopamine. They're going to just go and hit those two happy feeling levers. But in actuality, when they have a list of all the ones they can, they go and they hit the anger one, the righteous anger. And they just press that thing over and over and over again because it gives them certainty as to what I'm supposed to do. And it probably makes them angry. So they want to hit something. So they hit that thing over and over and over again. But if they had the choice to choose between happiness and choose between righteous anger, I think it's pretty telling that we all have this. I think we all have this ability to want to focus on the negative rather than being in the positive, even when both things are simultaneously true and right in front of us at all times.
How interesting. I think anger can be so addicting sometimes. And it can be, I love what you're saying, 80-20, right? I think it's important to learn how to harness both and operate in happiness and in anger. So going back to Monday's pod, since we're doing just a little recap on it, was there something that you took away that if there's like one thing that if you want the viewer to take home with them on this Friday evening, that would be it from Monday's pod?
If there was one thing I would want them to take away, if they are struggling during the holiday season,
yeah,
is for them to know that they're not alone and that there are other people out there that actually care about them and that whatever feelings you're feeling are right. I kind of hate it when someone says like, hey, I'm feeling really bad or I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling this. And someone says, oh, no, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Don't, just focus on something else. It's fine. I think it's okay to be in the suck for a little bit.
Yeah.
But you also need to know when that suck is no longer serving you and when you need to go out and seek help and to find help and to change it.
Yeah. Another great reference to Embrace the Suck by Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, about taking ownership. And that's the name of the book, right? Extreme Suck? No. What did I say?
Extreme
ownership, not extreme
Extreme
suck.
suck. That's a very different book.
Oh, it's a different book. It's a different channel. That's a different guy. Oh, man. Yeah. Embrace extreme suck. Get it now. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that is not the book. That is a different book. Yeah, he talks about extreme ownership. That's the name of the book. He talks about embracing the suck. Even that sounds weird now. Even that I'm not confident. I might have to go reread that book to really lock in my knowledge again. The suck being the struggle, the day-to-day minutia, the grind of it all, right? Absolutely. No, that you're not alone. I like that. I think one thing that I would want to carry over from last pod to this pod and really give to the people is there's so many that I would want to say. So I definitely recommend watching Monday's podcast if you're not already watching, if you didn't already see it, and if you're not already following, make sure to hit the follow. But one thing I would say is you won't be able to understand how life-changing it will be to go help someone in need till you actually do it. And I know this is the holiday season, and you might have had a great holiday season, right? But a lot of people didn't. A lot of people were stressed. A lot of people didn't have any Christmas presents. They didn't have anything. And they woke up to no one, right? I highly recommend going and donating some of your time to a local charity that helps one-on-one people. I can't explain it, but the right charity at the right time can be very life-changing for the person you're helping and for the person helping, right? For you and the person. So I think that's probably what I would say, especially if you're in a dark place. Like if you're in a bad mental state, there's only a few things you really can do that I would ever really recommend. And one is probably go to the gym, right? Get those good endorphins up, right? That's obviously the first step, right? Nothing's going to change if nothing changes, right? So we can't stay where we are. So we got to go do something. And that's a great way to start, right? But I also would say, if you're in a bad mood, if you're in not even a bad mood, if you're having a bad life, right? Zoom out, get some gratitude, but also that might piss you off, truthfully. And you hearing that might piss you off a little bit, but I would say go help someone who needs to be helped, right? Be the change you want to see. Chris, what do you got?
There's an old saying in therapy that is, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. So when you feel that inkling of like, oh, F Dominic, how dare he tell me just to go and do something to feel better? That's probably the inkling that what he's saying is true, and it's triggering you for a reason. Because maybe, just maybe, you want to be sad. Maybe you're comfortable in being sad because you've been sad for so long and your brain has become accustomed to this. And the thought of changing it to being happy, your brain is afraid of that because right now it is calorically easier for it to be sad than for it to have to make a change. Your brain's job is to not keep you happy. It is to keep you alive. You can be alive and depressed. You can pass on your genes and be depressed. Your brain does not want to do any caloric work. Your brain is inherently lazy. And if you have myelinated all of the neurons to be negative, to perceive negative automatically, to go and remyelinate new neurons to focus on positive is calorically a very abundant energy thing for that your brain will have to do in order to do that. Every time you have a thought, you're going to have to consciously think a different thought. And that's a lot of work to have to not only rewrite the current thoughts, but also have to go back and rewrite all of the old stories you tell yourself.
That's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So I know we have later on in the podcast, we have our viewer mailbag. If you don't know, stay tuned for that. That's one of my favorite parts of the week where we have people write in, give our thoughts on it. It's a beautiful time, right? But before we get onto that, right, we talked a lot about gratitude. We talked a lot about journaling. We talked a lot about focusing on the good parts of life, right? What else can we add? I don't want to spoil all of Monday. I don't want to spoil the viewer with, don't even listen to Monday's pod because you got Friday's pod, right? but there was just so much great and practical tips in there. Um, what else do you want to say about Monday's pod, recapping wise, without giving it away? Because I feel like if I say anything else, I'm going to give too much away. But what else you got for us?
I think the biggest thing is to focus on community and just to go out there and try to find people that you can connect with. And I know we talked a lot about charity there a second ago. Go out and give your time to charity. Maybe for some people, that's too big of an ask. So maybe all you have to do is just reach out to somebody. Reach out to someone who you also know is alone during the season, who you know maybe didn't have a family member. For Thanksgiving, we always will, if we have anyone who's in town for like when my wife was in vet school, obviously there was a lot of kids that were around that their parents lived somewhere else. So we would always have them over to our house. Anyone that didn't have a place to go could always come to us. And this year for Thanksgiving, we offered an extension to another doctor in my wife's hospital, letting them know like, hey, we know that your family is in New York. If you need a place to go, our family's going to be here and we would love you to come and join. And she didn't take us up on that offer, but at least she knew that we were thinking about her and that we wanted her there. And had she been there, wonderful. But had she not been there, wonderful. But either way, it made us feel better that we knew that we were trying to help somebody else, that we were trying to put somebody ahead of ourselves. And that's the most pernicious thing about depression, is that it puts you ahead of everyone else. It makes you think that your struggles, your issues are uniquely and inherently different from everyone else's in the world. And when we give back, when we help another person, it shows us that our issues are just issues and everyone else has them. We're not special. We're not this perfect little snowflake. It's kind of like that astrotherapy that I've talked about. When you're feeling down, study physics, study macrophysics, and understand that you are nothing but a small, small speck of sand in this wide cosmos. And regardless of what you do or don't do means absolutely nothing. And that could be a very scary thought in saying like, well, what's the point? But I can also think it's a very enlightening thought in saying, so if nothing matters, then everything matters. That I could do anything and it'd be okay. Also meaning I can choose to focus on the positive. I can choose to put that out into the world and know that it's going to come back to me. If not in this life, in the next. But I would rather focus on this life right now and making it positive than waiting for the next life for it to finally get good.
100%. 100%. And I would also say change is something that should happen now, but it doesn't have to happen fast. It usually doesn't happen fast. But it needs to happen now. Because while you might think you're going to live a long time, we don't know. And did you have a point on that, Chris?
What do we always say here at the podcast? 1% better every day. Mm-hmm. I'm not asking you to go from depressed or really sad to being the happiest person in the office. I'm asking for 1% better. Can I wake up every morning and rather than saying like, oh, I can't believe it's so cold outside. The dog outside barked. I fell asleep on
the barrier's low. Damn.
I think there's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Who complain. There's times where I'll bring it back to jiu-jitsu where you're at jiu-jitsu and you roll with somebody and then afterwards they just kind of seem down and low and like, hey man, what's going on? Like, you okay? And they're like, I don't know. Like my kids are acting weird and my car isn't working well and my 401k is down and I don't know. I just kind of suck. And that's just kind of the experience at jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you might think you're the top person and you will go into jiu-jitsu and you get smashed so freaking hard. And you just realize how much you suck. And then how much you suck can start to come into other parts of your life. Like, I don't just suck here, I suck here and I suck here and I'm not good here. Or you can focus on, look how much better I was than I was when I came in for the first day. Yeah. Look how much better I was than I was just yesterday. Focusing on these little steps, these small gradual improvements is what's going to get us to where we want to go. But everyone focuses on, I want to go from 0 to 100 immediately. But that's not the way progress works. That's not the way the physics of the world works. It's 1% improvements. Every so often you'll get a 2-3% improvement. But when things go wrong, they can go wrong very, very fast. But we always just focus on that when things go wrong, not on the slow, gradual improvement that we are. Because the real mantra of life should be, when do we want slow? We want slow progress through life. If you have a solid windfall, like you win the lottery, Most of the time, it doesn't come with the habits, the mindset shifts that you need to sustain that. And then it ends up leading to that dark place.
100%. And what I'm about to say is easy. It's good in knowledge, tough in practice. But it really, truthfully is, you got to fall in love with the journey. And you can't get discouraged when bad things happen, because in order to become the person you want to become, you're going to have to change. I don't want to be rude, but you're going to have to change almost everything. Usually. I know that's how it was for me, and that's how it is for most. Right? I had to change the way I saw everything. I changed the way I thought about everything. I questioned everything. Right? And even when things went bad, you got to love those things. You got to love when you fail. And you got to rewire literally everything. You know? Also, I would say one thing that is kind of helpful, maybe actionable, maybe a little gem in the rough, is when you do succeed, no matter how little, how big, write it down in a place where you can always go back to when you're in that negative spot. Like, remind yourself how great you are. Sometimes it's so easy to hate on yourself, to really get down on yourself. When it's a snowball, it goes downhill, it becomes into an avalanche, right? I get that. I've been there. The snowball happens like that. It's so fast. But the snowball going up, gravity would say otherwise. But I think you can go in a positive direction really fast as well. So that's why having a book of your successes, remind yourself how awesome you really are, it really helps.
I would agree. So before we move on to viewer mailbag, I just want our listeners to reflect on what really matters most in life and to remember to shift your perspective to the positive and to go back to what really matters most in life. It's not a thing. It's not an object. It's not something that you're missing in your life. If I had this one thing, I'd be happy. It's relationships. It's the people that you have in your life. So that's the thing that really matters. Not the car, not the house, not any of that stuff. All that can go away. That's all ephemeral. But the relationships, the love you have for another person and that people have for you, that's the thing that endures. That's the thing that is important. So focus on that. Focus on trying to help other people. Focus on the relationships you have. And if you don't have relationships that you can think of, I would challenge you to think a little bit harder. And if you still can't think of it, you need to go out there and make those relationships. You need to make those people in your life that you care about. Because no one on this planet is an island. No one is self-made. No one gets into this life or out of this life alone.
So true. With that being said, I think we'll move on to our viewer mailbag, unless you have any final thoughts, Chris.
No, just focus on gratitude, be positive, control what you can control, and have the wisdom to know what you can't.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be moving on to our viewer mailbag. This is one of my favorite sections of the week. I won't deny it. It's probably my favorite section of the week. So this is where we get a letter in from one of the viewers. We read it. I read it. Chris gives us insights. I give a little insights too here and there. But we try to help them out, help the community out in a very real and personal way. So with that being said, let's get on to it. So welcome back to 5 Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. Today's letter says, caught between family and finance, stuck overseas for work while my kids grow up without me. How about that? Wow, what a doozy. Alrighty. Howdy, Five Guys. Howdy. That is us. I'm reaching out because I feel like I'm stuck in a catch-22 and I am desperately in need to figure things out. Gotcha. So it says that right now, life feels like a constant balancing act with no end in sight. And it's getting harder and harder to ignore the weight of that. Let me paint you a picture of our life. We are a family of 5. Myself, my wife, and 3 beautiful kids, ages 9, 3, and 2. Congratulations. I'm in my late 30s, and my wife stays at home with the kids. It's a choice we made out of both love and necessity when our 3rd child was born. We did the math, and daycare costs alone would have eaten up around $3,000 a month. It just didn't add up for my wife to keep working while her salary wouldn't cover much beyond childcare. So we made the choice for her to stay home. I love that. I would have loved that if my mom stayed home. That would have been awesome.
Before we move on,
please,
before we move on that. So $3,000 a month for childcare, that's probably pretty accurate. I don't know. But what I do know is that most finance people, if you were to like ask Dave Ramsey's or the Susie Irwins of the world, would be like, your wife's only making $3,000 a month. She should go and find more time, or go and find more money and get a better job. And could she probably do that? Yes. But you also have to incorporate something that most people who only focus on the money don't. And that's the emotional attachment to being there with your kids and being able to know, like, how much is it worth to be there with my 3 kids every single day? So that's what I'd rather focus on this one, is, well, as we go through and kind of see in finance, I think so many people just want the answer. And the truth of finance and the truth in all of life is that there are no answers and there are no solutions, only trade-offs. So could your wife go and find a better job that maybe pays more? Yes, but it will take her away from her kids. And how much is that worth to her? $2,000, $3,000, $4,000? While we may be easily able to quantify these numbers, you can't easily quantify the unquantifiable metrics like time with your kids. And I think that this is what this dad is really struggling with, just from the title of the book thus far.
100%, 100%. And if she was already working, I wouldn't suggest quitting your job, right? And just going and staying home. Like, no, but this is the situation that they chose. And I agree with you 100%, Chris. Like, maybe she's making an extra $500, $1,000 more, right? Than the $3,000 for childcare, right? Is $500 worth all that time with your kids? It's like, I wouldn't think so. I would think it'd be worth more to spend time with your kids. And every kid I know would have wanted that. At least I know I would. Financially, we're not just scraping by, but we're right on the edge. With my income and a bit of rental revenue, okay, good to know,
Nice.
we're pulling in about $12,000 a month. Now, granted, pause, $12,000, that is a lot of money to me, probably to you, Chris, as well, right? To most. But it's all about where. Where is that? Are we talking 12,000 in Hawaii? Talking 12,000 in New York? Are we talking 12,000 in Oklahoma? Right. So it all depends. It all depends. After paying out for the essentials, mortgage, the rental mortgage as well, car payments, groceries, and utilities, we're left only with a small buffer. In total, our expenses hit around $11,000 every month. It's tight enough that we can feel the pressure building. The real challenge, though, is my work situation. My current job has me working outside of the country for weeks at a time, sometimes even longer. I'm grateful for the income it brings in, but I'm missing out on my kids' lives. Every time I leave, I feel I'm missing milestones, bedtime stories, and even those precious little family moments. I feel like I'm watching them grow through photos and videos, and it breaks my heart. A new job opportunity has come up closer to home, one where I'd finally be able to tuck my kids in at night, help with homework, and really just be there for all the little things that I've been missing. But there's an issue with it. Here's the rub. This new role would pay around $131,000 a year, which translates roughly to about $6,000 a month. That's a big drop from what we're pulling in even now. And if the vacant, that's a big drop from what we're pulling in now, even if I get the vacant rental unit leased out. Okay, so the rental property, I'm guessing it's just one, is vacant currently. So they're paying the mortgage on 2 homes, and the rental property is not cash flowing at all because there's no rental. There's no one renting it.
Okay. So we have something we can clearly fix.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So with our current expenses, taking this job means that we'd short out about $2,500 each month. Okay, so they'd be short $2,500. Gotcha. And with no family to lean on, my parents have passed away, and my wife is either estranged or struggling with their own issue. My wife's family, that is, struggling with their own issues. There's no safety net to really fall on.
Here, one second before we move on. So I've just noticed a kind of an abnormality with this. So he said that they would be short about $2,500 if they took this job that was paying them $6,000 a month. But they're currently making $12,000 a month, and they said their expenses hit $11,000 every month. So 11,000 minus 6,000 is $5,000. So it's actually double the amount they're going to be losing every month, unless they're saying we'll have to also cut back on a bunch of stuff, and then it would be 2,500. I don't know, but I'm just saying that based off what I'm seeing in this letter, there may be some issues on not having a very good understanding as to how much money is going out for real. And it
Mhm.
sounds like we might just be guessing based on every number ending on zeros. And whenever a number ends in a solid zero or in double zeros, you can usually double it, which
Yeah.
would be perfect because they said 2,500 when based off the numbers you said earlier, it's probably 5,000. So if you double it, that's probably what it actually is.
I keep asking myself, what am I doing wrong here? And whether there's any way to make this work. I feel like I'm caught between two impossible choices: stay in a job that takes me away from my family, that happens to really feed them, clothe them, and give them a good life, or take a local role that might not cover our basic needs. My wife and I will have to run the numbers again and again, but each time we come up with nothing. We come up with hitting a wall. Yeah. Hmm. Is there any way to make this work that I'm just not seeing? Could we adjust our budget or our approach? Maybe there's something that we're not seeing to could close the gap. Any advice, any insights would mean the world to us. We're looking for a way to bring a little bit of stability, presence into our lives. Thank you for listening to our story, and thank you for any guidance you can offer. From Here's my goal: a life where I play a role as dad. Should I trade in the grind for a moment I can rewind? Interesting, interesting, interesting. Wow.
I'm going to restate that from because the rhyme that you said was all off. So here's my goal: a life where I play a dad's role. Should I trade in the grind for moments I can't rewind?
Yeah, I read that before and I was like, I butchered it 3 times straight and I was like, frick, I know I'm gonna butcher it live. Yeah, that is the correct version. That is the correct version. The unevolved version of me says, keep working your job. You're putting your kids through school, your wife gets to stay home, embrace it. Suck it up, right? But he's also just a human being, right? He wants to be a father, he wants to be a dad. He's missing those opportunities. How can he possibly do that, Chris?
I first have to say, like, this situation is one of those situations that just kind of sucks in that as a financial advisor, a financial coach, a financial consultant, I can't give you a clear answer. And unfortunately, most times I can't give people clear answers. I can only give them the trade-offs and they have to make a choice because there is no solution to this. There's only going to be trade-offs. In truth, it sounds to me like you don't have a very good understanding as to how much money is actually going out. Because from what I already pointed out, we have some abnormalities between how much you said you spend each month versus how much you expect to bring in and then what that would mean for you. In addition to that, you've created a life in that you have huge amounts of fixed costs. So yes, you are making good money, $12,000 a month. But that also means that your lifestyle on just your fixed costs inflated up to $11,000 a month, which is basically, 92%, 89, 88% of the amount of money you bring in. Therefore, kind of tying yourself to the job that you now want to get away from. Now, as someone who wants to be a stay-at-home father, I get it, man. I get like that you want to be home for your kids. And I really wish I could give you like, oh yeah, just do this 3 tips and then you're going to be good to go. You can stay home with your kids and you can work from home and do all these things. And unfortunately, this is not going to be what I can tell you because there's going to have to be sacrifices made here. In order for you to be home with your kids, if you're currently making $12,000, I'm just going to go off of your numbers.
Mhm.
If you're making currently $12,000 a month and you say if you translate to the new job at $6,000 a month, but your expenses are on average $11,000 a month, you're losing $5,000 a month. And while being home with your kids may sound emotionally the right thing to do and may actually be the right thing to do, we still have to work in the world of physics. And the physics of money is that the math is not mathing based off what you're saying. So are there ways we can increase our income? One thing that you said in here is that you said you had rental income, but then later on you said that the house is vacant. So I'm assuming you don't have rental income. Can we explore ways to maximize this rental and get a tenant in there like immediately? Because you said that you're paying mortgage on your house and your rental house. If that house is staying vacant, you're not making money on it, You have two options. If you want to move towards the moving closer to home type thing, that's either you get a tenant in there immediately that's paying you rent and paying over the mortgage, so to bring in some additional income, or you sell the house. You can't continue to pay two mortgages and take a 50% haircut on your income. That would wreck you.
Yeah. Two mortgages is hard enough, right? As is.
One mortgage is hard enough.
One mortgage is hard enough, let alone two, right? And I don't know what his numbers. I don't know what the finances of the rental. I don't know if he's cash flowing maybe $100, $500. I'd be surprised if he was cash flowing $500 a month, to be honest, because most don't. But yeah, you might maybe short-term rental, maybe Airbnb. Yep. I don't know. Now that's a whole different business model, mind you, but could be an option if you're already not renting it out. Yeah, that's tough. That's unbelievably tough.
You can only go up if you start doing something. So maybe it's on the market right now for a long-term rental. Can we lower down the rent slightly? Like, can you do something? Your wife's at home. Could she maybe be like the property manager? Like, you need to get that either get the house rented immediately with either short-term or long-term, or do something, or you need to get rid of it. Because if you want to, if you want to maintain the job you have and not be home with your kids and keep on doing what you're doing, go for it. But then I don't think you'd be writing into us if that was the case. It sounds to me like your heart really wants to take this local job, but your head is saying this is impossible because of the lifestyle we have.
Yeah.
And both of those two things are true simultaneously.
Yeah.
You are right both ways. Your heart's right and your head's right. So the next thing I'm going to tell you after we get the house rented out immediately or sold is you need to assess your spending. We've already talked about it, but you need to actually review every expense and categorize to see if there's any areas you can cut back, even temporarily, especially in the discretionary spending. So I would consider tracking every single expense for a month, then go 2 months and identify any areas for savings. And therefore you can actually have real numbers. Because right now this $11,000, $6,000, $2,500, these are, I feel like right now you're just throwing numbers at the board and seeing what sticks. Because just in this short letter you sent us, we have 3 different abnormalities in the amount of money you say you spend versus how much money you would be bringing in versus how much money you'd be under or over.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like you might not have a full knowledge. And yeah, it's going to look a lot scarier and be a lot harder to know when you're just guessing at shit.
Honestly. Yeah. I agree 100%. 100%. If you don't have the right numbers, then you can't make the right decision. So, yeah.
Next thing we might be able to do to bring in some extra income is look at some refinancing options for both the rental property and for the home. I'm not sure when you purchase it, maybe you locked in great things. If that's the case, go ahead and negate this part. But if you did purchase a home more recently, rental or interest rates have lowered. So you may be able to lower your interest rate, which could lower the amount of burden you have every month. You're going to have to see into that a little bit deeper, but that's something to think about. Additionally, if you do decide to take this new job that's closer to home, would that give you time maybe for a part-time job, for some more flexibility, something else you can do where you're at home? I don't know, maybe remote side work or some freelance work, something like that. Because taking a 50% haircut on your current salary to go from, I don't know, maybe 260 to 130 is really, really big, especially when you are currently living on a 260 a month salary or 260 a year salary. Like you're spending all that money to take 50. If you were living on 130,000 while making 260, then I'd say, yeah, we could probably do this. But you're living on 260 and spending like you're living on 260. And now you want to go down to 130. It's going to be really hard. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And I'm not sure if you and your family are willing to do that. Because the most important thing in financial planning isn't what are you willing to do? It's what are you not willing to do?
Well, I hope that helps. I hope that's actionable for you. And we wish you the best of luck. We really do. I don't think I have any final thoughts on that. I mean, you really summed it up in a way that I couldn't have. So I appreciate you for that. Yeah, that's tough.
Of course. I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean, from my standpoint, this is the reason that I've worked so hard to, when we do have kids, that I can stay home. And that's not only making more money when I was younger, it's also cutting our lifestyle back down so that we could live off of one income for both me and my wife, so that I could take a step back when we have kids and it not be an issue. But unfortunately, if you keep on making money and your lifestyle inflates with that money in lockstep, you're really tying yourself to that job. And I feel like that's the situation he's in. So can he do it? Can he take this other job? Yes, 100%. I don't know where he's going to be able to cut 50% of his spending and still feel like he's living the life. Can you do it? 100%. Living off $6,000 a month is totally doable. Families do it all across America every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've inflated your lifestyle, people believe that your life should move up in this perfect, like 45-degree arch and never go down. Unfortunately, if you want to take this 50% cut, it will decrease. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But it's making sure that you and your wife are okay with that if you want to move forward and take the job closer to home. And if you do that, maybe your wife could look at like part-time daycare and get a job as well, something to bridge the gap. Because my biggest concern is going from like, I don't know, $200,000 to like 180, not too big of a jump. Maybe even 150. You know, that's a big jump. 25% jump's big, but a 50% jump is huge. And that is just a very large chasm to try to jump.
Yeah.
They're trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah. That's a painful. You're going to have to 25% you can sacrifice some of the non-necessities, but at 50%, your life's going to look different. It's bound to look different. Yeah, in ways you might not like.
Yeah, so you just need to decide how much is being home with your kids worth.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quantify for that for you. You know, Dominic can't. No one can. You have to decide that for yourself. But more importantly, if you do decide that being home with your kids is worth more than $130,000, which I would agree it probably is, like at least for me in my standpoint, it still doesn't negate that you have to somehow find $130,000 of expenses to cut. And that's just the hard part about it. And I'm sorry you find yourself in this situation. I think we can, instead of saying everything's going to be okay, I know it will be okay. And right now it sucks. And right now you do have to go through it. You do have to make hard choices. And if you and your wife stick to it, you communicate openly, you find what's going to work for both of you, you can make it through this. But that doesn't mean that right now doesn't suck, and that's okay.
100%. Well, with that being said, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be getting on to our wins of the week. Chris, what is your win of the week?
So my win of the week, I'm just grabbing a box.
Show and tell time. Bringing something up.
I bought myself a Christmas gift. Well, my company bought myself a Christmas gift. I bought myself a high dock. So what this is it's a little thing that sits on my desk here, and it's connected to ChatGPT 4. But basically, all I have to do is press a button whenever I have my meetings, and it records the meetings and then creates notes of my meetings that I have with clients. So now, rather than me having to sit there when I'm talking with my clients and constantly write down notes and everything, I can now just press a button that basically works as an assistant, sitting there taking all the notes for me, and then it'll create action steps. It'll create all the things that I need. So this has freed me up from my after meetings with clients. It usually took me like 20 or 30 minutes to summarize all my notes and do everything and transfer it from my pen and paper to the computer. It's now instantaneous. So this has been very helpful for my business. And yeah, I'm excited about it. It's pretty darn cool.
Sounds really cool. That sounds really epic. For my win of the week is I finished the top half of all of my cabinets in the refresh, and I am loving the color. I'll have to send you a photo of it. It looks really, really nice. Actually similar to the color I'm wearing right now. But yes, that is my win of the week. And let me tell you, it has been a process. As you can tell, I'm a little bit tired. It's been a process for sure. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for us on today's episode. Chris, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, come back for next week for our last of 2024 before we move into 2025. We have one more episode left. And there is one thing I do want to ask our audience members, just an ask. From what I can see and what Dominic and I can see is that we're getting a lot of listens. We're getting out to a lot of people, and that's amazing. But for some reason, you guys aren't subscribing. So if you can please just do me a huge favor, go down into that podcast platform, whatever you're using, and just press the subscribe. It gets us to know that more people are listening and that they're getting the episodes every week. But more importantly, it gives us more momentum to go out there and find better guests to bring on for you. So ultimately, it's not about us trying to stroke our ego and say, like, look how many subscribers I have. But being able to have a large number of subscribers allows us to go to some of these bigger people that we want to bring in front of you and show them that, hey, if you talk to us, you're actually getting in front of a larger audience. So please do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that comment button, leave up to a 5-star review. Let us know what's going on in your guys' world so that we can continue to help you as much as you can. And most importantly, please share the Fi Guys with one person. In addition to pressing that subscribe button, tell a friend, hey, I just subscribed to this channel and you should too. It's really going to help us out in making sure that we grow this and bring you the best resources that we possibly can.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. With that being said, guys, hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Later, guys.
Later. This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.